Okay, I guess we'll start. So this is Abílio Costa, and he's going to talk about home automation.
So, as Peixoto said, I'm Abílio Costa. I'm a developer, C++ developer. Today I will not be talking about programming mostly. I will talk a bit about home automation. I was not expecting to speak in English, so please help me if I get stuck in a word, because it will probably happen a lot. So, where this started for me? This started a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Someone gifted me those, some outlets like those. And they are pretty dumb. They have a remote with 6 buttons. Each button turns a plug on or off. Because of that, I was only using one of them because it was on the bedroom, I think, on a bedroom lamp. I didn't need any more plugs on the bedroom, so I couldn't use the other ones in the rest of the house because the remote was on the bedroom. So I haven't had, for a few months, I haven't had any use for the other 2 plugs. So my poor man's solution was to buy an Arduino, a transmitter and a receiver for RF. An Arduino, for those who don't know what it is a circuit board with a microchip. You can program in C++. I think you can also program in Python and some other languages. I plugged the Arduino to the transmitter and the receiver, connected it to a Raspberry Pi, and basically I captured the codes that remote control sends to the plugs. Then I replicate those codes using the transmitter, and I can control the plugs. Sorry, I can control the plugs using the Raspberry Pi. From that, I added a simple script that exposed some HTTP endpoints, and I could control the plugs with my phone. I was very, very happy. The control was very dumb at that time. It was just adding some links to the home screen of the device, of the phone, and I had a home screen page with the 6 links. I touch them, it makes a get HTTP request, and the plug turns on. With that, and using Tasker, I was able to make the one of the plugs that was in the office turn on as soon as I arrived home. The phone connects to Wi-Fi, detects that I'm home, and calls the HTTP endpoint to turn it on. The same thing for the bedroom lamp that turned on automatically 10 minutes, if I remember, after my alarm ringed. And now, before I was only using one plug. Now I wanted to use more because I can do more with them. So I bought more plugs from another brand, and I could use the remote from the other brand to control the first 3 remotes, because the remote sends the signal to the Arduino. The Arduino recognizes it and sends the correct signal to the other plug. I mean, it makes a translation between one brand to another. So I had 2 remotes that I could use to control any of the 6 plugs. The same thing can be done for other devices like alarm sensors. Most of we don't have any here. Most of the alarm sensors that are installed in many houses are RF. So we can use this to capture the signal from the motion sensors. Let's say you have an house with an alarm pre-installed that is wireless. You can use something like this to detect presence in any room of the house. The same thing for doorbells, garage doors. Many of them can be controlled using simple RF signals. You can clone the remote signal and repeat it, and the door will open. And this is cheap. This is very cheap. You can buy it for €4 or so, excluding the Raspberry Pi, of course. And the box is expensive. I had the simple script to control that, but I wanted something more manageable than my shell script or Python script, I don't know. And so I decided to use some home automation software because they also have plugins to integrate with other devices like TVs and more. So I list some here. I'm currently using Home Assistant, and this is the one that I will be talking about next. Domotics and OpenHub are very popular. They have a big community, and they have lots of integrations with everything from vacuums to TVs, etc. Pymatics is not so known, but it was one I used for about a year. It is very light and easy to use, and is written in CoffeeScript, which for me was a downside. But if you like to code in CoffeeScript, maybe Pymatics is for you. There are other commercial devices. They are hardware and have their rule engine. SmartThings is the most popular because, considering its capabilities, it is cheap. It's about less than, it's about 90 euros. But it connects with a lot of things and has a big community around. So if you want to just buy something and be able to integrate a lot of sensors from other brands on it, SmartThings is probably the not cheap way to go. Vera has a big community also and is similar to SmartThings, but for me, I think the UI is a bit worse. I think it is slower. And finally, Xiaomi. It's great because it's very cheap, very cheap. The hub costs about 20 euros, and you can buy sensors for 4 or 5 euros. I will talk more about Xiaomi by the end of the presentation, but I recommend it. So, Home Assistant. Home Assistant is, do any of you know Home Assistant?
From Google? No.
From?
Google.
No, not from Google.
Okay.
So it's an home automation software. It runs as a service. You can run it anywhere. It exposes the UI from a website, a web UI. You install it on your computer and access through your computer IP address. It is light. It is very light, and the core of it is very simple and fast. You can extend it with a plugin-like system. It has a very powerful rules. If you ever used EFTTT, Home Assistant is much more powerful than EFTTT. It discovers many things for you. If you install it and have, I don't know, Philips Hue lights or IKEA lights or a Chromecast, they will show you on the UI a few seconds after you run it the first time without you having to do anything. It runs locally. It doesn't depend on the cloud because it is very boring when you arrive home, click on a button to turn on a light, and it doesn't turn on because Mail has cut the internet connection or you don't have a cloud connection. It has a REST API available, so you can integrate it with other services or in your own apps. It is open source and written in Python, which for me is very nice. This was one of the reasons I chose Home Assistant, because I can improve it and I can make components for it. And it has a huge community, a huge developer community, so it is growing a lot and fast. It has a new release every 2 weeks. which is cool, but if you don't want to spend time upgrading an automation solution, it probably isn't the right solution for you. You can update it every 6 months, but then you will have to run through the update changelogs to know what breaks in each version. But usually there isn't much thing breaking anyway. So as I said, it is Python. You can run it everywhere. There is people running it on Android, which seems stupid, but imagine you have a small tablet on your wall. Maybe it makes sense running Home Assistant there instead of having a separate computer or Raspberry Pi running it. There are Docker images available if you want to test it on your laptop. There is also Aspian, which is a Raspbian distribution that already includes Home Assistant. And finally, we have SIO, that is a solution to basically make a Raspberry Pi or Intel NUC into Home Assistant hub. The SIO, as I said, it is a distribution, a Linux distribution that is focused only on Home Assistant. So you don't really have access normally to a terminal because the intent of it is to install it on a Raspberry Pi and manage it entirely through the UI. It deals with the backups and updates of Home Assistant, because if you install it on your computer, you will have to manage that, but SIO manages it for you, and you can install things like an SSH server or a Samba through the UI. The intent is to be a little bit more user-friendly for non-Linux users. You can also install that on any Linux machine that has Docker. So you can test it without having a Raspberry. So this is the architecture of it. As you can see, Home Assistant is managed by SIO. I don't think we need to get into much detail of it. Just to give you an idea that SIO is like a manager of Home Assistant and the add-ons. They all run on Docker containers, and SIO updates the containers and saves the configuration, and also has the ability to control the OS with the host controller. So, back to Home Assistant. One of the main concepts of Home Assistant are the components. Let's go. They are like plugins to Home Assistant. You can use it to connect it with your TV, with your air conditioner, with lamps. Imagine that you have an air conditioner from Daikin and some Philips Hue lights. You enable the Philips Hue component, you enable the air conditioner component, and you can make the lights turn on when the air conditioner turns on, for example. It basically enables you to make two systems that are separate talk with each other indirectly. You also have components to extend Home Assistant. For example, for image processing, you can put a camera near your garage and make it recognize the license plate of your car and open the garage automatically. You can also do that with faces. There are also components to make signal processing, statistics. There are components for pretty much everything you can think of. And also command line integration. Imagine you have it running on a device and want to look into a log file, and every time a keyword appears on that log file, you want your bedroom lights to blink red because something is very, very wrong. So you can use the command line component to do that. Yeah, the components you don't need to download the components manually nor install anything manually. You just add it to the configuration files, and Home Assistant manages the dependencies for you. Entity types are the things in Home Assistant. They can be physical things like lights or TVs, but they can also be virtual stuff like a virtual button, or I don't know, this is a virtual thing because you may not have a real alarm, but you have a keypad on your UI that activates a virtual alarm that will notify you if someone enters your home and you're not there. Just to give some examples there, that's the climate component. You can use it to control an AC unit or the heating of your house. The media player component can be used for things like Kodi or a media player device. And Spotify, you can make Home Assistant play Spotify on your TV if your TV allows Spotify to connect to it. And the vacuum component, which is a bit recent, allows you to control the robot vacuums like the Roombas or the Xiaomi ones. With the Xiaomi ones, you can even say to the vacuum to vacuum the kitchen or vacuum the bathroom. You can specify some rooms. Okay, just show you some simple automations. The configuration of Home Assistant is made in YAML, which some people hate. They are moving things more to UI-based configuration, but most things are still in YAML. You have a UI to create automations, but it is very bad. So, YAML it is. This is a simple example to turn on a light of the living room lights when the sun sets. It basically has a trigger that listens to the sunset event of the sun platform. This is a component. You enable the sun component and you have access to the sun event. And it calls a service that turns on the living room lights. Simple. There's a problem. If you are not at home, the lights will still turn on, and maybe you don't want that. So we can have a condition. We can have people or devices to a group. For example, you can have your mobile phone that is detected when it connects to Wi-Fi and add it to the people group. And this group will be in the state home when someone is home. When someone in the group is home, the group is on. So with this, this action will only be executed if this condition is met. So, anyone sees another problem with this?
The lights will turn on everywhere. When the people
No, because only the living room lights.
You turn off lights maybe later.
That, yeah, but let's say you like to turn it off manually because you will go to bed at different hours each day. Okay, let's imagine that the sun sets, you are not home, and you then arrive home. The light will not. Yeah. So we also need to have this condition as a trigger here, and this trigger as a condition, so that if you arrive home and the sun is set, the light turns on. I mean, we need if you only have the group home state as a trigger, it will always trigger when you get home. So you need to have both the trigger and condition as a trigger and a condition. So yeah, just to give you some examples of the things that initially you think, oh, this is perfect, and next time you get home the light is not on and will not turn on automatically. Yeah.
Just a quick question, sorry. So will that home trigger only once then? Or will it just keep triggering if home was the trigger?
If you use this as a trigger,
Yeah.
it will only trigger when the state changes to home.
Cool.
Yeah.
So just
Only once.
learn the detail.
Yeah. That will be bad. Okay, if you need to do something more complex than that, or a lot complex, because that was very simple, you can also use Python to code actions. They run in a sandbox, so you cannot import modules. And you only have the basic Python models. This is an example of counting how many people are home. It basically iterates to all the device tracker, which is the things that track people. That you have a home assistant, it increments the counter and sets a new sensor, the thing you have there, with the number of people that are home. This is just a very basic example, but Python scripts are very useful because using YAML to program something like this is not very nice. You can use templates, Jinja templates in YAML, but still using Python is pretty much better. This is another example where we notify the user. You can send notifications using Facebook Messenger or Telegram or Pushbullet or any other notification services. This is a simple script that notifies the user when some light is on, except those on the exclusion list. So, pretty basic Python script that will not be so basic if you try to do it with YAML and Jinja. Okay, just so if anyone is starting, I want to share some ideas. For me, this is the most basic thing, but probably the most cooler to use day to day is presence-based lights. It is as simple as having a motion sensor turning on your headlight. When you get used to it, imagine you have on the kitchen, you get used to enter the kitchen, the light goes on. When you go to a kitchen that doesn't do that, you find it strange, you enter and oh, the thing on the wall. So using that day to day, you get used to it, and then you notice that going to the wall to turn on the light is a bit eh. Time-based lights are the same thing, but based on time. Let's say, like the sunset example. You want the lights to turn on every day when it gets dark. The wake-up sunrise, it's something that I use that, at least for me, it's pretty cool. It's having a light fading in like 20 minutes before your phone alarm goes off. It is cool because most of the times I wake up with the light and not with the phone, and it's softer to wake up with a light that it's growing than with a phone ringing on your ears. You can also do the same thing with music. I tried it, and the music was a bit stressing after 30 seconds. So yeah, no. Having some automations when you get home. So you get home, you turn on, you click on a button, or you say Alexa, hello, and having things like your windows opening or the TV getting on automatically. Plus some, imagine you go every day to the bedroom to change clothes, the bedroom light is already on. So automating some of those things that you do every day when you get home. Movie mode is also cool. It makes some people do some because it's like you put a movie or a series or a TV series and the lights fade out to a more dim brightness, which is cool. The first time people see that, they like it. Controlling window blinds is also a nice thing. Imagine you go out, you open your window shades, and the day gets gray and starts to rain. Probably it will be cool if your windows close automatically because cold. Another idea, having an automatic dehumidifier that only turns on if the humidity is above a certain threshold, because you don't need to have it running 24 hours if only 5 hours need the dehumidifier to be on. Having some security notification. Let's say you have a door sensor and you are at home, someone opens the door and you receive a snapshot from a camera in Telegram. And also the vacuum scheduler, which uses the thing I talked before, that is Imagine you set it to vacuum the bathroom on Monday, vacuum the kitchen on Thursday, and so on. I have a colleague that is using this and is liking it. So I'm not using everything from here. These are just some suggestions. Okay, so talking a bit about developing, because this is a developer thing, I guess, right? So the basic architecture of Home Assistant has a state machine. Components are the things that you can develop. You have components for lights, components for switches, blah, 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 blah. Let's imagine the Philips Hue lights are a component that is somewhere here. In the components you can set states on the state machine, those fire events. You can also fire events and listen to events, and components publish services like the light turn on is a service that the user or Home Assistant can call. So pretty simple here, at least. To do a component, this is an example to make a sensor component. A sensor is something that can display values on the UI, and you can also use those values on other components and automations. This is an example on how you could make a simple sensor component. You only need this. This is one that will always display 23 on the UI, which is not very useful. But for example, the first component I made was to scrape the web page of my router and to get all the devices that were connected there. So I can have in Home Assistant which devices are connected or not, mainly for using my phone as a presence detector thing. So you just need this and change this function to do a scraping of your router home page. On the configuration, if you, let's say you share this with other users, they only have to add that, and your sensor will appear on the UI. So it's pretty basic. If you have some interest in starting with this, it's simple. It's not that something very complex to do.
You mentioned you're running a sandbox, no?
Not this. Sorry. The Python scripts I mentioned before are user Python scripts, are configuration Python scripts, and they're not part of the Home Assistant environment. So let's say you set up your automation. That is a user thing. This is a developer component.
Yeah, I was still expecting these to be sandboxed. So
No.
Or your modules.
This you can.
Inside the sandbox and you ship them together.
Oh no. These are not sandbox. These are run along with Home Assistant. You can set what the dependencies that this needs, and Home Assistant will download those dependencies, and you can use anything here, anything from Python. Did I answer?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Just wondering the security.
Oh, the security.
I mean, it depends on the. Now you have to trust them.
Yeah, it's open source too, so
Yeah, sure.
yeah. As any software, you'll have to wait it. Okay, if you want to start, you have a lot of documentation and forums and developer docs, but especially you have a Discord chat, which has both user and developer channels available. So if you want to start developing or using Home Assistant, go to the Discord and make your questions there. Usually there's someone that will help you. So, talking about hardware. It's finally getting cheap. A few years ago you wouldn't be able to find something to turn your lights on off for less than 30. Yeah. Now you can buy, I will show them, some light bulbs, color light bulbs, as good as the Philips one for 15 euros or so from Chinese stores, but yeah. So just some concepts. Basic area of communication is the one that I talked at the beginning. The one thing sends, the other listens. If this doesn't hear this guy, this doesn't care. So Wi-Fi, we all know Wi-Fi, but there's starting to appear more and more devices, home automation devices that use Wi-Fi, which if you have one or two are fine. If you have a house with 40 sensors and 30 power outlets, which is not that much if you automate your whole house, the Wi-Fi network will probably not be that good for it. I've not tested, but from what I read, Wi-Fi is not done for home automation. Also, it is not the best thing for sensors, which have to work on a battery. Let's say you have a small sensor with a battery. Wi-Fi consumes more than these two, for example. Bluetooth, I think everyone knows Bluetooth too, but the last versions of Bluetooth are mesh, or support mesh, which is traditionally Bluetooth is a peer-to-peer thing. This device connects to this. With mesh, this device can connect to many devices around it. And let's say the controller is here, and the device is here. They don't see each other, but if there are the devices in the middle, they can talk and propagate the message between them. Personally, I think Bluetooth is the big thing in home automation in some years because of that, and because you have Bluetooth on your cell phone. So Zigbee and Z-Wave are older technologies that are mesh too. Zigbee usually is expensive, but follows the protocol. Use Zigbee devices. Z-Wave devices usually follow the protocol, but are expensive. Zigbee doesn't really follow the protocol normally, but are cheaper. So yeah, both are mesh, and both were made thinking on not really home automation, but industrial automation, and having it run on a sensor in a battery for a year or two. So they are a bit better than Wi-Fi on that.
What do you recommend? Is the Bluetooth?
Not really, because Bluetooth is not available here. I think only General Electrics have Bluetooth devices, Bluetooth mesh devices. So you can really buy Bluetooth mesh devices here.
So what do you recommend? What do you use most?
Xiaomi, which is very cheap. The devices work very, very well. The application, which is made from Chinese developers, doesn't work that well. But if you use Home Assistant, you can make you can open the local API on the hub, and then you don't need to use the Xiaomi application. So use the Xiaomi application just to add the sensor to the hub. The hub is this thing in the middle, and then use Home Assistant to do all the rest. So the application is only a problem when you set up the hub. And the latest versions are not that bad. So if you want to start, you don't want to spend a lot of money, go this route. The hub, you can buy it for 20 euros, I guess, which is cheap for a home automation hub. These sensors, this is a door sensor, a temperature sensor. That is a button. It's about this size. You can put it on a table to do things. That is a motion sensor. That is the Magic Cube, which is a small cube this size, that detects gestures. So you have it on a table, you can rotate it to dim the lights, or you can turn it 90 degrees to turn the lights blue. Or yeah, it detects like seven different gestures. They all connect with each other if you want. And those things, I don't know, I've bought this for about 4.5 euros, this for 7 euros, so it's not expensive to start. So yeah, if you don't want to spend a lot.
These be Zigbee?
Yeah, sorry. These are all Zigbee except for the light.
So you could use a different hub?
Yep, you can use the SmartThings hub, for example. to connect this. This connects with SmartThings Hub. You can buy. There is an open source project. I forgot to mention it here. That is the Zigbee to MQTT with a 2. You can buy a small USB device that costs about €5, I think. You flash the Zigbee to MQTT on that thing and can connect this. No. Tasmata, I will talk, are for some Wi-Fi devices. The Zigbee to MQTT, Tasmata also use MQTT. Is for Zigbee devices, and with that you can dish the Xiaomi hub. Yeah. So yeah. But the app is bad, but the sensors are great. The battery lasts a lot. They are small. This door sensor is something like this, so you put it in a door, it doesn't cause a weird visual impact. They are very, very, very reliable. They also have the U-lights, those bulbs, that the color ones cost from €15 to €20. They're also white, with which you can control the brightness, that costs from €10 to 15 or something. They are very reliable too. Users can't do many requests in a short time to them, because they will lock you out for 5 seconds or so, but without that they work very, very, very well. If you use the Xiaomi app, you can connect the lights with the rest of the things, in spite of the lights being Wi-Fi, and the rest of the devices are Zigbee, but they connect with all. So yeah, go Xiaomi. I can give you the name of the project. Yeah. So these are the ones that can use Tasmata. There are a lot of devices appearing on the market using some expressive chips. Those are the chips. I will show you what is an expressive chips in the next slide. But this is a small and inexpensive Wi-Fi chip. These devices started to appear, 1 year ago, and they are very cheap. This thing here is a relay that you can put inside your wall switch, connect it to the wall switch, and then you can control the light with the wall switch and through Wi-Fi. You can connect it with the Home Assistant, or you can just use your phone to turn on off the lights. This costs less than €10. This is from a Portuguese guy, Bruno Horta. Don't know if any of you heard of him. He sells it, but is soldering the things manually yet, so he can sell a lot of them. Those are some power outlets that also measure power consumption. You can also flash it with the same software. You can flash the same open source softwares on all these devices, because they all have the same chip. Because that is great, because they all come with their proprietary softwares that connects to their Chinese clouds. So it's cool that you can open it, connect some flasher thing to it, flash your open source software, and they don't connect to the Chinese servers anymore. And they are all cheap. This thing, it's a small relay that can connect to a lamp, costs about €5 or so. So yeah, these two. If you need to control some lights, these are very cool. The blue thing is a Shelly. It's very small, so you can fit it inside a light box. So the firmwares for those devices some of them are those that are here. They all connect with Home Assistant. They usually use MQTT. And yeah, you just need to flash it. It's not that hard to flash on most of those devices. You can find a lot of tutorials online. Even if you don't have soldering skills, you don't need for most of them. So you just buy the
programmer.
Yeah, it's a USB to serial converter. You connect the cables there, hold it with your finger for a second if you don't want to solder them, and it's flashed. You close it, you connect it to to power, and yeah, never flash it with the power connected to a power outlet. It will not be very safe. So the expressive chips are those things here. You can buy them without being integrated with anything. If you want to do some custom sensors, for example, the new versions also have Bluetooth. So you can buy that thing. It costs less than €5. It has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and you can program it. So let's say you need to, I don't know.
You can add the temperature sensor like TS.
Yeah, you can connect. Yeah, connect any sensor, a simple contact sensor, a button. You can connect it to your phone through Bluetooth. They are very, 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 very easy to program. You can program it in Python and JavaScript, and there are many things to program it. You can also program it in C. So, yeah, you can find a lot of tutorials and videos online to program those things, and they are cheap. They are very cheap. So the cost to start is very low. Then you'll get used to it, and the cost goes higher. But you also have my sensors, which is good for battery projects. Let's say you have a sensor somewhere in the middle of I don't know, nowhere. Yeah. And need to connect a motion sensor to it. My sensor is very cool because the radios it uses are not the expressive ones, are not Wi-Fi ones. So you can make a sensor that lasts 2 years on batteries. Yeah, it's a little bit more work because you'll have to buy more things to make it work. But if you need something to last a lot on batteries, my sensors is a great point to start. Oh, and you can create long-range projects like 1 kilometer communications, but not that easily, but yeah, you can do that. So just to give some examples, the Bluetooth thing on the ASP can be used to make Bluetooth presence detection. Let's say you have a smart band and you want to store the time that you arrive home every day or arrive at work every day. You make the ASP send the data to a Google Sheet, for example, make it detect Bluetooth devices around, and every time you get close to it, it will automatically record the time on your timesheet, for example. Soil humidity sensors, I made one of these a few years ago. It's still alive. Just buy 4 humidity sensors that cost, I don't know, €2 for the 4. Connect it to the thing, and stick them on the earth of a plant, and you'll have a report of how much humidity the soil has. A rain gauge, let's say you have some automatically controlled garden, and you don't want it to water the plants automatically when it starts to rain. So just buy a rain sensor, connect it to an ASP, and it's done. Bed occupancy sensor, you go to bed, you lay down there, 5 minutes later, all lights in the house go off automatically. This is an interesting project if you have your power or water meter inside of your home. It's not that interesting if it's outside, because most of you probably have noticed that the power meters have a light that blinks. That light blinks every X amount of watts. So you can glue a light sensor to it, connect it to an ASP, and you have almost real-time consumption report of your house consumptions.
The water meter also, probably some have
some have, yeah.
Like the magnetic thing, and you with the sensor, you probably.
Yeah. The new ones have a light, but the older water meters, the one that have the, how do you say, the needle, yeah, have some magnetic thing there. You can place a whole sensor that detects magnetic fields, and you can also count how much water you are using that magnetic sensor. So yeah, those are fine things. I can use them because my water and power meter are on the outside. So yeah, the parking sensor, which is that thing, I found it nice. which is, let's say you have a garage and you need to put two cars in there, one in front of the other. So you need to get the first one close to the wall. You place this sensor, this is a proximity sensor, on the wall. You place these indicators on top, connected to an ASP. As you can see that, yeah, there are some wires, but there are basically 3 or 4 components: the lights, the sensor, and the ASP, for example. And yeah, when you get close, the lights grow and blink, and you don't hit the wall with your car. So, okay, so just to close it, go local. Don't use the cloud to control your ceiling lights, especially if you are using this to control some light that you need to be on sometimes. So have a plan B. Don't make your bathroom wall only controllable with your phone, nor only controllable with a wireless button that one day the battery dies and you need to use the bathroom, and it will not be on. So always have a plan B for lights that need to be on. And get a voice assistant. I didn't mention much about voice assistants, but they are one of those things that you get used to if you use it every day. So let's say you get home and say, Alexa, I'm home, and it does things. You go to sleep, Alexa, I'm going to sleep. It turns on everything that is on and turns the light, the bedroom light on, for example. If you have only one light, a voice assistant will not make much sense. But if you start having more things, it is a very nice investment.
Wasn't that like rule number 1?
The first?
Yeah.
No, because everything is local except the voice assistant.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Can
No, I mean, go local for what you need to control locally. If the voice assistant is on, you press the button.
okay.
I mean, don't make the button a cloud button.
Pick your flavor of botnet.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
You should always access your sensors like with the VPN and not open ports on the router to
That
do
too.
it.
Yeah. I didn't want to go into security because it will take a lot, and we could be talking about it all night. But yeah. I remember a nice story about security of a guy that was on a Home Assistant Facebook group, and he posted some screenshots of his Home Assistant UI. So, this is what I'm doing with a IP address, a public IP address, without any password on Home Assistant. A few minutes later, he was complaining, stop turning my lights on. I was just sharing. Nobody cared because, yeah, Facebook. An hour later, why are you doing this to me? Instead of just setting a password, he was complaining on Facebook. Eventually, he turned it off. Yeah. So, don't set this up, make it online, and think, oh, no one will find my IP address. They will. Yeah.
Especially if you share it.
Yeah, that is a very nice point. So, thank you. I don't know if you have any questions.